Kansas City showed San Diego Wave that we have a lot more work to do to get on their level. Two really tough games back to back, and now San Diego Wave sit in 8th place on 4 points in 4 games. Definitely not good enough and did not control any part of the game, especially in the first half. We were non existent. How did this loss happen? What needs to change? How do we bounce back as a team? Let's get into all that and more on the Penalty Kick Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Geo. I made an announcement that I had someone in my family pass away this past week and just wanted to remind everyone out there to find time to call someone, find those things in life that bring you joy, and enjoy the moments that we have while we are here. It is an absolute gift. So just want to say those words. But you know what was not a gift? This game. San Diego Wave were thoroughly outplayed. If anyone caught the SDFC episode that I just posted, I said stats told the story of that game. SDFC got beat, and the stats, but also on the field, really showed it. I'm going to throw some full game stats of the Wave versus the Kansas City game, and it looks like it was a really close game. But in all honesty, it really wasn't. At the beginning of the game, I saw the starting lineup that Jonas selected and was a little bit perplexed, to be honest, and to say the least. I said in the pregame show for the Kansas City San Diego Wave game that I did want to see a youngster on the field. I like our youngsters, but I believed that Jonas should have started more of a veteran presence based off how good Kansas City are and the composure that we would need to potentially win this game or at least stay in this game. But I called for only one of those youngsters to start, and Jonas started 3 of those youngsters, and it was all their first time starting in their professional careers at this level against this team, either whether you're splitting hairs, the best team or the second best team in the NWSL. What were you thinking? Armstrong with their first start, Emmanuel with their first start. She's barely, if played at all this season, and Okuchukwu started as well. 3 of them, their first time starting, and against Kansas City. Kansas City's such a good team. I said they're scary on tape. So to put them on with that lack of experience, I don't believe set them up for success. It doesn't set them up to build confidence because they were under pressure or barely in the game or barely showed up on tape in this game. And I just don't think that was the right call. We'll discuss Jonas more in a little bit, later down in this show. So please stay tuned for, the analysis of Jonas and the selections that he made. But also in my preview show, I said to stay in this game, there were certain keys to the game that we needed, to have happen to hopefully nick a win. We needed to control pace, and that really started with the midfield. And I asked for the midfield to be really big today to control that pace so we can play at our pace, not Kansas City. And we needed a stout defense to stay in it. We did none of those things. We did not control pace. Our midfield, especially in the first half, was non-existent. And then our defense obviously allowed a couple goals, and there was a lot of defensive breakdowns, especially in that first goal. Thought it was pretty bad, especially on our defensive midfield side of things. So really disappointed in the midfield. We needed to, really try to dominate the game in that part of the pitch. And we did so against Orlando, and we controlled Orlando's pace. That's why we had a really good game against them. But in the first half, we were overrun by Kansas City, and we were not tidy on the ball, and we didn't keep meaningful possession. This led to, Kansas City dictating the pace, and they kept the game fast. They kept the game open, which is not our tactical style. It's their tactical style. And again, we played their game, and they showed on the score sheet, especially in that first half, that they can play their game way better than we could play their game. And it's crazy. The stats that I showed, we did a couple or one thing well. We kept the pass accuracy low. They were a pass accuracy of 70%, which means they turned the ball over quite a bit. but we did not counter. We're not a counter team, but I think you need to instill in your team tactics for specific games. And I think we need to learn how to counter, especially when we play great teams such as this, that do turn the ball over. That's their weakness. You try to exploit their weakness. And again, that's what happens, in all of sport. You find their weakness and you go at it, especially when you're not the better team. And I don't want to be disillusioned because we're not the better team, not yet. We're building up to hopefully be a really good team. We have a lot of new players. A big problem is our defense. I mentioned we needed a stout defense. We didn't have it. I've been iffy on Lundqvist. Armstrong had a little bit of a difficult game. I think it's still a difficult game for a youngster like Armstrong to start, especially with the front three of Kansas City, of Chawinga running at you, Dabinia coming in late from the midfield, Cooper running at you. They are a good team, and we just didn't handle it well. And to really start with the game recap, it all started with, Kansas City on the front foot. Not only that, but they would run at our team, and they broke on our right side. So Armstrong's side, Wesley's side, and, a player kind of broke through those lines, sent in a cross. But the cross, it was definitely a good cross, but it was towards the top of the box. But all of our midfielders dropped to our defensive line, which was right up by the 6-yard box. And we left the top of the box wide open. And guess who was there? Dabinia. A phenomenal player that you cannot leave alone. How do you not track that? How does the midfield not track that ball kind of in swinging but back out? And so that was really, really bad defense from our midfield. I won't blame the defensive line. The defensive line had to track the runners back to the 6-yard box. But who is guarding that top of the box area, that middle of the box area? We didn't have anybody. And it was our defense and our midfield line on the same plane. That is a recipe for disaster. And it was, because Dabinia put it away. 1-0 Kansas City. And it didn't end there because Kansas City got a penalty, not too far after that. And the ball was struck by a current player kind of near the top of the box. And it hit McNabb's hand. The arm was away from the body, and the flight of the ball looked like it was on goal. So it was a penalty. It wasn't a soft penalty. I think it was a clear penalty. And Labonta, who stepped up to the penalty spot, and on the Penalty Kick podcast, we judge people on those penalties. Are you nervous? Are you confident? Which one are you? Labonta was more than confident. Labonta lasered, short run up and lasered it to the top left. Sheridan had no chance, so no blame on Sheridan at all. 2-0 Kansas City, and it honestly probably could have been more in the first half. In the second half, we made changes. We came out swinging a little bit more, so I will take some comfort in that. We looked like a comparable team to Kansas City in the second half, but was Kansas City also foot off the gas? Probably a little bit with a 2-0 lead, but Cascarino had a shot from outside the box. The Kansas City keeper made a great diving save, so props to that. Then Leon, who came on as a sub, had the best chance of the game for me on a through ball from Barcenas, but the keeper, saved it, and it was kind of off the leg. So, the keeper made a couple really great saves. Kansas City have another clean sheet. We have 0 clean sheets in the season thus far, and we need to take a look at that. But, the Leon chance could have got us back in the game, but did we deserve it? I don't know if we deserved a win. Maybe we deserved a goal in the second half, but I don't know if we deserved the win. I really do have some questions about Jonas in the lineups. I mentioned the 3 youngsters that started. I personally would not have selected all 3 to start. Again, in my preview show, I said maybe one of those players should start. I did think, for me personally, I did want to see Armstrong. I'm not sold on Lundqvist quite yet, and I know that our right side of the defense is absolutely our weakest part of the team. Not only Wesley, but you have Armstrong. Both of those players are really, really young. Where's the veteran presence to settle down that side? So do you move McNabb to, the right center back? Do you move Wesley to the left center back? So Wesley plays with Maroney, McNabb plays with Armstrong. It kind of then creates this veteran presence. So you have a veteran winger with a young center back. Then you have a veteran center back or a veteran player that's playing center back with the youngster on our right side in Armstrong. I don't think you can put 2 young players on the same side and, again, are right, whether it's Armstrong or Lundqvist, does look like our weakest point. It does look like people are able to run at those individuals, which creates a lot of problems. So we're going to need to watch out for that and how our defense steps up, because again, 0 clean sheets so far this season. Not sure if I would have selected Okuchukwu to start this game. Again, I did call for veterans in the pregame. If you started one, it was one youngster, and then everyone should have been veterans because Kansas City is such a good team. And Leon, I thought, played well when they came on. I thought they could have been a calming presence, especially on the hold-up play. Again, I wanted to see possession. Okuchukwu is a player for me that runs in behind. Leon is a hold-up player that also has the ability to kind of run in behind, even though Leon's not as fast. But that, I thought, would have been the right move in this given situation against this given team. But the most perplexing was Emmanuel starting. I haven't seen much of Emmanuel play this year. And then to start them in the midfield, where I thought we had to control that area of the pitch, again, was perplexing. It was the biggest question I had. And also, where's Corley? Corley did not have an injury designation. They were an unused sub. Corley has arguably been our best player this year as far as, assists, highlight plays, goals, along Cascarino. And they're not in the game. They're not used as a sub. Maybe there's something there that we don't know, or maybe something I don't know. But why they're on the bench as an unused sub, very, very questionable for me. And someone needs to ask Jonas that. Someone needs to ask Jonas the hard questions. There's something about West Coast reporting that is very kind and doesn't ask very pointed questions. I would love to have a conversation with Jonas about those selections, especially given this game. So I didn't buy this lineup. I questioned it immediately once it was posted when I was watching the game. But also, why not start Barcenas? How does Emmanuel get the start over someone who has a lot more NWSL minutes right now? Barcenas, yes, a teenager, but Barcenas has played minutes, especially last year. Landon Donovan gave Barcenas a lot of minutes. Every time Barcenas has come on this year, she's looked dangerous. And I don't understand how you pick Emmanuel over a Barcenas. And also, one thing that I did notice, Sanchez looked slow. A lot of players on our team look a little bit slow. So, Dali and McCaskill, definite starters, but they're not burners. They're not fast. They're not the speed, and creative. I think Dali is creative in the sense of their passing, in the sense of their composure, and then facilitating. McCaskill, is the hard-nosed center defensive midfielder, but also who is going to be the speed person? Who's going to be the one that's going to run through the lines to then get the ball to the forwards? I think Barcenas can do that. Also, I was really, really impressed with Ascanio, not only this game, but last game against Orlando. Why weren't maybe they the youngsters to start this game? Again, it was a tough game, and it's really tough to make these decisions, especially as a first-year coach on this team with a lot of new players and trying to figure it out. But I do think wrong calls were made. I think I would put the blame on Jonas more than the players, even though our defense needs to step up a little bit more and our midfield didn't look great. But I don't think Jonas set us up for success this game. Hey, it's one game. It was a tough game against a great team. We'll really, really need to bounce back after these 2 defeats. The next game, not going to be as difficult as Orlando and Kansas City. I mean, number 1 and number 2 teams, right? But we go up against the number 10 team in the NWSL, Racing Louisville. But there will be mounting pressure because, again, we're not in the playoff seeding right now, and we need to work back to that. So there's going to be a lot of tough decisions for Jonas ahead as far as the lineup, and that I want to see. But the watch party for the Racing Louisville game will be at Culture Brewing in Solana Beach. I plan to be there, and I hope to see all y'all there so we can root our Wave FC on so they can get this next win and bounce back. So this is the Penalty Kid Podcast, and I'm Mike Geo.